Discover how a black mechanic's incredible act saved a Hell's Angel and transformed lives forever. Jalen stood in the dim light of his auto shop, the scent of grease and metal filling the air, each wrench and tool whispering stories of resilience. As a dedicated African-American mechanic in the gritty heart of Detroit, he carried the weight of his father's legacy on his shoulders like a heavy cloak. This shop wasn't just a business, it was his pride, his dreams, and the hope of a better life for his two kids. The struggles of everyday life clung to him like the grime on his shirt, but he stood tall, determined to honor his father's memory and provide for his family amidst the chaos of a world filled with economic downturns and racial prejudice. On one fateful night, as shadows cloaked the streets, a cacophony erupted outside his shop. Shouting, fists flying, and the growl of engines filled the air. Drawn by the chaos, Jalen rushed outside. To his horror, he witnessed a brutal brawl involving members of the notorious Hell's Angels motorcycle gang, their leather-clad figures striking hard against one another. Among the chaos, one man, Rocco the biggest, baddest biker of them all lay injured on the asphalt, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. Jalen's heart raced. He knew the dangers that could come from helping a gang member, yet a deep-rooted instinct to help urged him forward. Ignoring the judgmental stares from bystanders, he scooped Rocco up, feeling the grit of the world weigh heavy in that moment, and brought him into his shop to tend to his wounds. Back home, Jalen faced the brewing storm of scrutiny. His kids, eyes wide with concern, felt the tension in the air, and neighbors whispered behind closed doors. "What were you thinking, Jalen?" they muttered, the gravity of disapproval hanging thick. Even his own family warned him, their fears echoing in his mind. But as he patched Rocco's wounds in the dim light of the shop, he couldn't shake the connection he felt. This man, so caught up in the bravado of his world, was just as vulnerable as Jalen. Each shared story pulled away layers of pain and misunderstanding, transforming Rocco from a mere gang member into a man wearing his shattered spirit on his sleeve. Just as a flicker of hope began to take root between them, dark clouds loomed. Jalen's business faced threats, fueled by community fears and Rocco's gang ties. His heart felt heavy, the weight of his choices threatening to crush him. Would his act of compassion be the very thing that tore his family apart? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jalen felt an unexpected fire sparking within the community. Conversations ignited not just fear but discussions of forgiveness and understanding. His courage began to shift hearts, but standing at this crossroads, Jalen was caught in a turbulent storm. Could an act of compassion really change lives? Or would the past's resilient grip pull them both back into the shadows? As whispers of discontent clashed with growing support around him, one question loomed large in his heart: what would he sacrifice to protect not just his legacy, but the new moral integrity he had found amid the chaos? The next morning, Jalen opened the shop with a heavy heart. The sun spilled through the cracked windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air, but it felt surreal. His mind raced with fears of what lay ahead. Rocco's presence lingered in his thoughts, a reminder of the risks he had taken. Threads of doubt tangled within him, his hands trembling slightly as he picked up a wrench. His 3-year-old son, Jamal, bounded in, eyes bright with innocent wonder. "Daddy, can we fix the race car today?" His voice broke through the haze, and for a fleeting moment, Jalen felt warmth surge through him. He smiled at Jamal, letting that infectious energy lighten his burden. "Sure thing, champ. Just after we finish up with the regulars." As the day unfolded, the shop remained quiet, the looming specter of Rocco's situation hanging thick in the air. A car pulled up, and Jalen recognized Nate, a mechanic from the garage a few blocks down. "Morning, Jalen," Nate started, his voice edged with uncertainty. Heard what happened last night? You good? Jalen nodded tightly, his fingers gripping the wrench harder. Just trying to keep the door open, you know. That wasn't the full truth, though. Behind those words, he felt the community's sideways glances and the whispered doubts. Would they truly understand the humanity he saw in Rocco? Sipping on his coffee, Nate shifted uncomfortably. Just be careful, alright? Them bikers ain't something to mess with. Just as Nate's warning settled in, the shop door swung open again. A trio of leather jackets stepped inside, their presence heavy and intimidating. Jalen's heart sank. It was members of the Hells Angels. His instincts screamed to flee, but there was nowhere to go. They approached, tension hanging thick in the air. Where's Rocco? One barked, the challenge evident in his tone. Sweat formed at the back of Jalen's neck as he met their gaze. He's resting. He needed help, he replied, his voice steely but uncertain. Help, huh? You think you're playing hero with our brother? Another left a threatening huff that sent chills through Jalen's core. Memories flashed the danger of their world and what they would do to protect their own. But Jalen steeled himself, holding his ground. He's a person, just like anyone else. He didn't deserve to bleed out in the streets. Silence fell, the crowd outside seemed to quiet, and another moment passed like an eternity. The eyes around him narrowed, assessing him as if trying to peel back layers of bravery entwined with respect. Unsaid words hung heavy, a precarious balance teetering between acceptance and rejection. But then abruptly, the biker cracked a reluctant smile. Well, maybe you got guts after all. He turned, glancing over his shoulder, before adding, but don't let it get you hurt. The trio left, leaving Jalen shaken. He exhaled sharply, the weight of what had just occurred crashing down on him. The defense of Rocco was becoming more than just a personal decision, it was igniting sparks in the community. But what would the consequences be? As he looked at Jamal working diligently on his toy car, he wondered, how far would he go to defend his choices? And would his own family pay the price for his bravery? The door chimed again as a familiar face stepped through, but as Jalen glanced up, he wasn't prepared for who would walk in next. The door swung wide, and in stepped Lisa, Rocco's sister. Jalen's heart skipped as he registered the determined look on her face. She was someone he had seen at family gatherings, always laughing, lighting up the room. But today, the shadows under her eyes told a different story. Jalen, she said, urgency creeping into her voice. I need to talk to you. It's important. He nodded, motioning her to the back of the shop, away from prying eyes. As they stepped into the cramped space filled with tools and the oily smell of machinery, she sighed deeply, an effort to gather her thoughts. Rocco, her voice cracked, and tears shimmered in her eyes. He's in bad shape. They couldn't stop the infection at the hospital. I thought you might know someone who can help him. I heard about what you did. Jalen froze. His heart raced, remembering the blood and the frantic call that had led him to save Rocco. I don't know if I can do anything more than I already have, Lisa. It's dangerous. Those guys, they don't just let anyone in. I know. She shot back, wiping a tear from her cheek. But he saved my life once. And I'm not going to sit by while he fades away. You know how he is. Stubborn as hell. He'll fight, but he needs a chance. Seeing her desperation was like looking in a mirror. He too was a father, fiercely protective, unwavering in his love. What do you want me to do? He whispered, almost afraid to vocalize the thought. Maybe we can get him to a different hospital. Lisa suggested, catching his eye. If he doesn't have the right care, he won't make it through the week. A flicker of hope ignited in Jalen's chest. The idea of a life hanging in the balance clawed at him every second counted. But the risks of crossing paths with the bikers again left him cold. Rocco could have enemies that wouldn't hesitate to strike back, not just at him but at his family too. "I'll do it," he replied finally. "But we have to be careful. If they find out I know." "Just trust me, we can sneak him out," she insisted, her resolve making his own doubt waver. "They're busy looking for you." Jalen swallowed hard, the weight of her words flooding him with anxiety but also determination. The stakes were high, but so was his love for his own family. Could he risk everything for a man who had made mistakes but needed help? "All right," he said, a new sense of purpose filling him. "But we need a plan." The afternoon blurred into moments filled with urgent whispers and desperate scheming. As they talked, Jamal's cheerful laughter echoed from the front of the shop, a stark contrast to the tension swirling around them. "I can't let you go in alone," Lisa said quietly. "Rocco may trust you, but he's also family. I'll stand by you. Together, we can do this." "Okay," Jalen agreed, feeling the fire of hope flicker brighter amidst the uncertainty. He had no idea where this road would take him, but he felt the pull of destiny. With every passing moment, the weight of the looming decision pressed heavier on his heart. Would he risk everything, his family, his business, for the sake of Rocco? As they finalized plans, an unsettling sound echoed from the direction of the shop door, a growl of engines revving and the distinct rumble of motorcycles approaching. The hair on the back of Jalen's neck stood on end. "Get ready," he warned Lisa, as they exchanged fearful glances. The Hell's Angels didn't just ride in for a casual visit. What would happen next? Would they come looking for answers or revenge? The roar of engines grew louder, reverberating through the walls of the cramped shop. Jalen's instincts kicked in, he could feel the tension rising. He glanced at Lisa, who was gripping the edge of the workbench, her knuckles white. The faint scent of machine oil mixed with the sweat on Jalen's brow, a stark reminder of the situation's gravity. "Stay quiet," Jalen said, lowering his voice. He moved towards the door leading back to the front, peering through the narrow gap. Outside, the gleaming motorcycles lined the street, dark shadows of men in leather circling around them like vultures. "What if they come in here?" Lisa whispered, her eyes wide. "Our best bet is to stay hidden," he replied, feeling the adrenaline coursing through his veins. He could already picture the scene, a confrontation that could lead to disaster. Suddenly, the door swung open with a crash. Jalen's heart stopped as the outline of a massive figure filled the entryway, a hulking man with a bandana covering his long hair and tattoos peeking from under his jacket. The tension stretched like a tightrope. "I know you're in here." The man barked, his gravelly voice slicing through the air. Jalen pushed Lisa back gently, the walls closing in around them. Every instinct told him to flee, but he wouldn't leave Lisa behind. "Just stay still," he murmured. Panic pulsed through the air as more figures crowded behind the first, filling the doorway. Jalen could see faces he recognized from the past bikers who had given Rocco trouble before. His blood ran cold. What were they doing here? "Come out, Jalen. We just want to talk." The leader of the group stepped further inside, scanning the room. Jalen could see the menace in his eyes. It was a face that had haunted his nightmares, the face of someone who didn't back down easily. "No. We can't let them find us," Lisa murmured, glancing out the tiny window at the back of the shop, contemplating an escape route. "Wait," Jalen said, a quick plan forming in his mind. "We have to distract them. Maybe if we can get them out of here on instinct." Fueled by a surge of fear and desperation, Jalen turned to a nearby tool bench, grabbing a handful of wrenches and tossing them to the far end of the room. The clatter echoed like gunshots, capturing the biker's attention. "Go!" he hissed to Lisa as she nodded, understanding. There was a small way out through the back, and they had to take it now. They made a dash for the door just as the bikers turned to investigate the noise, shouting curses. Jalen's heart hammered in his chest as they slipped down the narrow corridor towards the light. "Where are we going?" Lisa gasped between breaths, eyes darting around. "We need to get to Rocco." He is still our priority, Jalen said, trying to push past the fear clawing at him. We'll find a way to get him out, just trust me. They skidded to a halt at the back exit, the overwhelming sound of revving engines muffling their urgency. Jalen turned the handle, pushing the door open to find the sun glinting off the pavement, a scene so normal that it felt surreal. Do you see the van? He asked, spotting the nondescript vehicle parked a few yards down. Lisa nodded, determination igniting in her eyes. Let us go. But just as they took the first few steps, a shout rang out from behind them. Hey! Get back here! The thrill of hope jostled with the crushing weight of dread. Jalen grabbed Lisa's arm tightly, pulling her out into the open air as urgency surged through them like lightning. They ran toward the van, engines roaring in the distance matching the thundering of their hearts. Could they make it before the bikers caught up with them? Would their acts of courage save Rocco, or were they rushing into a trap? Just as they reached the vehicle, the sound of tires screeching around the corner sent chills down Jalen's spine. The bikers weren't far behind. Would they catch them before they even got started on their mission to save Rocco? Jalen flung the door open, the van's interior a dark, cramped sanctuary. He shoved Lisa inside, following closely behind and slamming the door shut just as a shout echoed from the pavement behind them. The engine roared to life under his fingers, yet panic gripped him like a vice. Hold on! He yelled, throwing the van into gear and peeling out onto the street. As they sped away, Jalen risked a glance in the rearview mirror. The bikers were already gaining ground, their motorcycles darting like angry wasps in pursuit. Lisa's breath was quick and frantic beside him, but he couldn't afford to look over. Focus, he told himself. Get to safety first. What now? She gasped, trying to steady herself. Where do we go? We need to find a place to hide. Somewhere the bikers want to think to look, Jalen replied, his mind racing. The glimmer of daylight was dwindling, and with each passing second, the pressure mounted. He turned down a narrow side street, tires squealing, as the van snaked through the dimly lit alleys. Shadows cast by tall buildings seemed to reach for them, mirroring his rising dread. Rocco! He thought. We need to get him. We can't give up now. Jalen's hands tightened around the steering wheel, knuckles turning white. Memories flashed through his mind, Rocco standing in the shop, his rugged hands crafting life out of metal and spirit. Rocco had taken him under his wing, taught him everything he knew about mechanics and loyalty. Jalen couldn't let him down now. There! Lisa exclaimed, pointing ahead. That old factory. We might be able to hide inside. Hope surged through him despite the uncertainty. Jalen pivoted the van in a tight space, but as they approached the factory's entrance, he noticed the gates were partially open, almost inviting. That's perfect. He said, feeling a spark of determination. He parked and jumped out, urging Lisa to follow. They hurried towards the entrance, the sound of revving engines louder now, the threat pressing in like a storm. Inside the factory, the air was thick with dust and the scent of rusting metal. Sunlight streamed through broken windows, illuminating a maze of abandoned machinery. Jalen's heart raced as they ducked behind an old press, barely managing to catch their breath. Do you think they saw us? Lisa whispered, her skin shimmering with fear. Not yet, Jalen replied, straining to listening for any sound of their pursuers. He knew they had only a moment before the bikers would come tearing through the factory looking for them. We need to stay quiet, keep our heads down. As they crouched in the shadows, Jalen was surprised by a flicker of something he didn't expect, a sense of purpose. They were in this together, and he'd do whatever it took to protect Lisa and Rocco. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the entrance. Jalen's heart lurched as dark figures stepped into the factory, combing through the space methodically. Check the back. One of the bikers shouted. They can't be far. Jalen's pulse quickened. They were walking into a trap and he could almost feel the heat of danger radiating off the bikers. Stay here, he told Lisa, his voice low and steady. With every ounce of courage, he peeked out from their hiding spot. The bikers split up, each heading in a different direction. Time seemed to slow as Jalen's mind raced with possibilities. Could they make a run for it? Or should he confront them? It was then that he sensed movement from the far side of the room. Someone else was here. A flickering shadow caught his attention. Who else could be hiding in this forgotten place? Would their luck run out, or would someone else join their desperate fight for survival? Jalen swallowed hard, bracing himself for whatever came next. Jalen's heart hammered in his chest as he focused on the shadow. It was smaller than the bikers, shrouded in the gloom, but there was no mistaking the urgency in its movements. His instincts kicked in. He needed to assess the situation but didn't want to reveal their hiding spot. "Who's there?" he whispered, praying it wasn't another threat. Silence stretched before him, wrapping around the suspense like a tight knot. From the darkness, a figure finally stepped into the dim light. It was a girl, no older than 16. Her face was smeared with dirt, and her wide eyes flickered between fear and curiosity. A wave of relief washed over Jalen, but it was quickly dampened by the realization of where they were. "Please, I'm just hiding," she stammered, her voice cracking like a dry twig. "I didn't mean to intrude." "Stay quiet," Jalen urged. "There are bikers looking for us, and we can't get caught." The girl nodded vigorously, fear echoing in her eyes. Lisa's apprehension turned into concern for the newcomer. "What's your name?" "Sam," she whispered, glancing toward the entrance. "They came in looking for someone." I was just passing through." Jalen met Lisa's gaze, and in that moment of eye contact, an electric understanding passed between them. They were all in this together now. They needed each other. "Listen, Sam," Jalen began, keeping his tone low and commanding. "Can you help us? If those bikers find us, I know the back door. I've used it before. Follow me," Sam said, suddenly assertive, a flicker of bravery igniting her voice. "Okay, lead the way," Jalen said, throwing one last cautious look at Lisa. He nodded, reassuring her silently. Sam darted toward the far end of the factory, and Jalen followed closely with Lisa right behind. They weaved through broken machinery, the sounds of the bikers searching echoing louder in the steel cavern. "Please," Lisa whispered, her fingers brushing against Jalen's as they navigated. "We can't get caught." "We won." Jalen replied with determination, his mind racing through their escape options. "We just need to move fast." As they reached the back of the factory, Sam pointed to a rusted door barely visible behind a stack of old crates. "It's just through there. We can get out." "Let us go," Jalen urged, pushing forward. He glanced back at the entrance. The bikers were still rummaging, but the more time they spent inside, the riskier it grew. Sam struggled with the doorknob, panic pulling at her face. "It feels stuck. I can't get it open." "Steady, just give it a little push," Jalen encouraged, taking over. He applied his weight against the door, the metal creaked and groaned before it finally gave way, swinging open with a groan. Outside, the cool evening air filled his lungs, but that fleeting sense of freedom was short-lived. Distant motorcycle engines roared to life, sending a chill down Jalen's spine. They had to hurry. "Which way?" Lisa's voice was tight with urgency. "Follow me," Sam shouted, bolting to the left, her small frame moving with desperate speed. Jalen and Lisa sprinted behind her, adrenaline fueling their escape. Just as they turned a corner, the headlights of motorcycles flashed into view, illuminating the path behind them. The bikers had realized their angle of escape and were seemingly closing in on all sides. Jalen felt a surge of anxiety, but his determination only grew. If they could just reach the end of the street, there might be another option. "Keep moving," he yelled, urging them onward. But before they could get far, a voice boomed from behind them. "You won't get away that easily." Jalen's heart sank. They were cornered, and the threat was closing in fast. Given the circumstances, he could feel the ground shifting, the gravity of the choices looming over them heavier than ever. What choices would they make now? And who would sacrifice for the others? As Jalen turned to face the dark figures, he couldn't shake the image of Rocco, and the unwavering loyalty that fueled him in this moment of desperation. Would it be enough to survive this? Jalen spun around, his heart racing. The bikers loomed closer, their silhouettes growing taller in the glow of their blinding headlights. He could feel Lisa's hand grip his tightly, panic evident in her eyes. Sam's gaze darted between Jalen and the approaching threat, uncertainty twisting her features. "Over here!" Jalen shouted, spotting an alley to their right. It barely showed beneath the haze of shadows, but it was a potential escape route. "Run!" With no time to lose, they dashed toward the alley. The sound of revving engines and the harsh laughter of the bikers echoed around them, the tension palpable in the air. Jalen pushed his legs to move faster. He had to be the one to lead them away from danger. The alley swallowed them, cloaking their movements in darkness, but that didn't silence the roar of their pursuers. He could feel the vibrations of the motorcycles reverberating through the ground, as if the ground itself was alive with a threat. Jalen paused to listen, straining to detect how close the bikers had managed to come behind them. "Do you think they know where we went?" Lisa whispered, her voice a near whimper. "I don't know, but we have to keep moving," Jalen whispered back, trying to mask any hint of doubt. Sam looked up at him, her face a mask of fear yet lit with resolve. "We can't let them catch us. I know a place nearby. It's safe." "Lead the way," Jalen said, adrenaline fueling his words. As they pushed further into the alley, fatigue started creeping in. Jalen could feel his legs burning. He stole a glance at Lisa, whose face was pale, but determination flickered in her eyes too. They weren't done yet. "Not now." "Just a little farther," Sam urged, glancing back over her shoulder, urging them on. The oppressive weight of sound bore down on them, the bikers were not far behind. Jalen darted forward, determined not to let fear slow him down. His thoughts raced faster than his feet. What if they were caught? What if the darkness consumed them? Then they rounded a corner, and suddenly, there it was, a small, dimly lit auto repair shop, the sign barely hanging on the hinges. The door was ajar, and Sam wasted no time. Her small frame slipped inside, beckoning the others frantically. "Get in," she urged. They rushed inside, Jalen pushing Lisa forward before slipping in behind her. The interior was cluttered with tools, oil stains marking the floor, and the smell of gasoline hung heavily in the air. "We need to hide," Lisa whispered urgently. "There's a back room." Sam gestured, her voice shaking but her resolve firm. They maneuvered through the cramped space, ducking behind stacks of tires lined against the wall. Jalen held his breath, straining to listen. The distant voices of the bikers grew louder as they approached, the sound vibrating through the walls of the shop. "You think they went this way?" Jalen heard one biker say. "Check the alley again. They couldn't have gone too far." Another responded. Fear twisted Jalen's stomach, but he pressed forward, staying low and holding tightly to Lisa's hand. They exchanged a glance, uncertainty hanging heavy between them, but they nodded as if to say, "We can do this." Just as the door to the shop creaked, Jalen's heart raced. He barely breathed, wishing for time to slow, wishing for an opening, wishing for any sign that they would be okay. The impending confrontation loomed, and Jalen couldn't shake the images of their faces if they got caught. But then, muffled voices shifted to laughter, riding engines back to life. "What's happening?" Lisa whispered, eyes wide. "I don't know, but I think they're leaving," Jalen managed, hope flickering to life within him. "Stay down," Sam demanded, her expression tightening again. Moments drifted by, heavy and thick. Would they really get away? But even as hope rose, the uncertainty clung tightly, refusing to loosen its grip. The bikers could always come back, and Jalen knew they had to be ready for the next threat that could close in on them at any moment. Feeling the tension in the air, Jalen turned to Sam. "If we make it out of this, you have to tell us everything you know." She nodded, determination burning in her eyes, but Jalen couldn't ignore the shadows creeping behind them, reminding him this wasn't over. Survival was just the beginning. What would they face next? Was the hope of safety merely an illusion? The sound of engines faded into the night, leaving behind a tense silence that settled onto the three friends like a heavy blanket. Jalen could still feel his heart racing, the thud in his chest a constant reminder of how close they had come to disaster. They stayed huddled behind the tires, the smell of rubber and oil grounding them back in the present. "I think they're really gone," Sam whispered after a moment, peeking over the stack. Jalen followed her gaze, straining to see beyond the dim light of the repair shop. The alley was still dark but quiet now, and the blaring bikes had vanished into the night, taking their chaotic energy with them. "Are you sure?" Lisa asked, her voice barely above a whisper, still trembling with fear. "They wouldn't stick around," Sam reassured her, though her expression was tight. "They were just looking to scare us." "Yeah, scare us to death," Jalen muttered, the tension in his shoulders slowly easing as he leaned back against the cold metal wall. "We can't stay here for long. We need a plan." "What kind of plan?" Lisa looked small and lost, her eyes wide and searching Jalen's face for something hope, maybe. "We need to figure out where to go next," Jalen replied, determination creeping back in. "Sam, you mentioned a safe place. Where is it?" Sam took a deep breath, the light from an overhead bulb gleaming in her eyes. "It's a few blocks away. It used to be my dad's old garage. It sits on a quieter street, nobody should find us there." "That sounds good, but what if those guys are still out there?" "Then we stay low and keep moving," Sam said firmly. "Staying here is a bad idea." Jalen felt a flicker of respect for Sam. Her courage had a way of igniting something in him that he couldn't quite explain. "Okay," he nodded. "Let us go." With hearts pounding, they slowly emerged from behind the tires. Jalen glanced one last time around the shop, making sure no one was waiting to confront them. The path ahead was dark and twisted, with every shadow harboring a potential threat. But they had to trust each other. They slipped out of the garage and into the alley, moving stealthily, cautious of every sound. The street was quieter now, the nighttime stillness encasing them as they moved forward. Jalen could feel the adrenaline still tingling in his veins, aware of every sound, the chirp of a cricket, the rustle of leaves, the distant hum of life in the city that felt so far away from their own. "Almost there," Sam said quietly with a pointed finger. Jalen hoped it was true. They could almost see the outline of the garage in the distance, a ghost in the dark. A sense of urgency urged them to quicken their pace, but fear kept them cautious. As they approached the back door of the garage, Sam hesitated. "Okay, once we're inside, we need to lock the door and turn off the lights. It's been empty for a while, but if anyone is looking for us." Jalen felt the familiar twist of fear in his stomach, but he pushed it down. "Then it's now or never." He nodded, and they slipped inside, the door creaking softly behind them. The interior was dark, just as Sam had said. Dust danced in the air, swirling in the dim light that crept through the cracks in the walls. Jalen felt a wave of relief wash over him, nearly collapsing against the frame. "Let us lock up," Lisa said. "Please, before they come back." Sam quickly turned the lock, her fingers trembling as she did. Jalen felt the weight of their situation press down around them. They were safe for now, but it wouldn't last. A single thought rang loud in his mind: who would come for them next? What horrors lay beyond their new sanctuary? Just then, Sam's expression changed. "You guys, there's something I need to tell you." Jalen's heart dropped. "What is it?" But before she could answer, a loud bang echoed outside, rattling the old garage door. The sound reminded him of thunder rolling across an open field, full of dread. Jalen, what do we do now? Lisa's voice quavered as the shadows of their past and present collided. This wasn't over. Not yet. Whoever was out there was determined, and they had to figure out how to survive. The door rattled again. Would this be the moment everything changed? The door rattled harder now, the sound a sinister echo that sent a ripple of fear coursing through Jalen's veins. Sam stood frozen, the words she had almost spoken thick on her tongue, heavy with unspoken weight. He could see the glimmer of fear in her eyes as she glanced at both him and Lisa, looking for reassurance he wasn't sure he could provide. Maybe it's just the wind. Lisa suggested, desperation tinging her voice. Yeah, right, Jalen retorted, his mind racing. Wind didn't rattle a door like that. He could barely keep himself from pacing the cramped space. We have to check, we need to know what's out there. Are you crazy? Sam hissed. What if? Listen, I know it's dangerous. But staying in here is just as risky, Jalen argued. We have to find out. Before another word was said, another loud thud crashed against the door. His heart dropped as he instinctively moved closer to them, positioning himself as a shield. Jalen, please, Lisa whimpered, her hands gripping Sam's arm tightly. Jalen could feel the weight of their fear, and though he knew he should comfort them, he felt an electric surge of adrenaline, his body responding before his mind caught up. Stay behind me. We'll just peek out, he said, his voice steadier than he felt. He turned toward the door, breathing deep, steadying himself. He grasped the handle and felt the cool metal bite into his palm. On 3, okay. 1, 2, wait. Sam interrupted, her brow furrowed. What if it's them? It's either that or we sit here and wait to find out. They don't just fade away, Jalen insisted, determination fueling his resolve. We either confront it now, or we risk getting caught off guard later. We deserve to know. With one last look at his friends, he flung the door open. The dim light from the street spilled into the garage, illuminating a vacant alleyway. The sound came from further down, but no one was there. Not yet. The silence that followed was deafening, and Jalen's gaze darted around, searching for movement. Just then, he caught a hint of a shadow darting behind a nearby dumpster, a promise of danger lurking just out of sight. See? He glanced back at Lisa and Sam. Nothing to be scared of. We can stay safe, but before he could finish, another loud bang echoed against the wall of the garage. The source was a figure now slowly emerging from the shadows. Jalen instinctively raised his hands, surprised to find himself unarmed and unprepared. The figure stepped forward, stopping at the edge of light cast by the garage. Jalen's heartbeat thundered against his chest, panic rising again. It was a man dressed in a worn leather jacket, his face partly hidden by the bill of a dusty cap. A Hell's Angel. Jalen's body tensed, instincts screaming danger. Whatcha hiding from, kids? The voice was gruff but oddly soft. The man squinted, taking in their frightened faces. I ain't here to hurt you. Yeah, right, Jalen shot back, unsure whether to trust this stranger. But as the man stepped closer, something softened in his demeanor. Jalen noticed a long scar running down his cheek, a testament to battles fought, while the sadness in his eyes conveyed a story deeper than any gang affiliation. I'm just looking for a way back, he said, searching their faces. Is that garage still working? You wouldn't happen to have a pair of wrenches, would ya? Confused, Jalen exchanged glances with Sam and Lisa. Why would a member of the Hell's Angels be looking to fix something? Just answer me this, Jalen said, his voice low. What do you want from us? The man hesitated, and in that brief moment, Jalen felt the weight of unspoken truths. Who was this stranger, really? What if their safety depended on understanding him? Before the man could reply, the distant roar of engines filled the air, sending chills down Jalen's spine. The shadows behind them grew longer, dark figures advancing toward the garage. Who do you think is coming? Jalen whispered, his mind racing. People you don't want to meet, the man replied, his voice becoming urgent. We don't have much time. As the wall of silence cracked under the pressure of the approaching bikes, Jalen's heart raced. Trust was necessary now, but was it too late for them to escape? A choice lay before them: trust this stranger or risk everything they had left. The door was closing fast, and with it, their hope of a desired escape. Would Jalen decide to walk deeper into the unknown, or would he cling to the safest path? Jalen stood frozen, his heart pounding against his ribs as the biker's words sunk in. Trust this man, or run. The rumbling of motorcycle engines grew louder, threatening to drown out any ounce of rational thought. We don't have much time. If you want to survive, we need to leave now. The biker urged, urgency flashing in his eyes. Wait, Jalen took a step back, instinctively pulling Lisa and Sam closer. What's your name? Brock, he replied, hands raised in a calming gesture. I know what you think of guys like me, but I'm just trying to get out of this life before it swallows me whole. Why should we trust you? Lisa's voice quivered, but determination was reflected in her eyes. Because I'm not here to fight. I'm trying to save what's left of my soul, just like you are, Brock replied, his voice steady. The bikes roared closer, and Jalen could feel the weight of decision tightening around him like a noose. His thoughts raced back to Rocco, the way he had fought to bring understanding instead of fear. Wasn't he that what Jalen was trying to do too? Okay, he sighed, glancing at Lisa and Sam, who were both wide-eyed, uncertain but hopeful. We'll trust you for now. Brock's face softened as he nodded. Smart choice. Follow me. He led them deeper into the shadows, away from the light filtering through the garage door. As they moved further in, Jalen could feel the darkness wrapping around them, a comforting embrace in contrast to the storm brewing outside. Stay low, Brock instructed, leading the way past stacks of crates and remnants of old machinery. The sound of revving engines echoed outside, rising and falling like a heartbeat. They paused at a back door, the dimly lit area filled with shadows. This way. Brock pushed the door gently, revealing a narrow alleyway. It'll lead you out behind the building. Keep quiet, and don't look back. Jalen felt the knot of worry easing slightly. This was their shot. Let us go, guys. He urged Lisa and Sam forward, their footsteps muffled against the ground as they shifted into the dim light of the alley. Sam's small hand clasped tight around Jalen's. Despite the fear, he felt a flicker of hope taking root within him. They were one step closer to safety. Hurry. Brock's voice pierced through Jalen's thoughts. If they find you with me, it'll spell trouble for you all. Jalen nodded, quickening his pace. They dashed through the alley, hearts racing in unison, their collective breath rising and falling in anticipation. Just as they reached the end, Jalen risked a glance back at Brock. Thank you. He shouted, his heart swelling with gratitude. Remember, not all of us are monsters. Brock's shout echoed as the motorcycle engines roared nearer, snatching his silence away. As they emerged onto the street, Jalen looked back at the alley, uncertainty swirling in his gut. Would they really be safe now? But there was no time to dwell on that. The roar of engines was closing in, and they had to move. Where to now? Lisa asked, glancing nervously at Jalen. The old garage, Sam mentioned. Let us get to it. We need shelter, Jalen declared, determination propelling him onward. They sprinted toward the garage, adrenaline coursing through their veins, minds racing with what lay ahead. A sense of camaraderie and trust had forged an unshakable bond among them. As they neared the building, the doors creaked open with a sense of fate welcoming them inside. It doesn't look like anyone's here. Sam breathed, glancing around in amazement, a perfect sanctuary. The moment they stepped inside, the familiar scent of oil and rust wafted up to greet them. Jalen could feel the tension beginning to melt away, hope glimmering as he took shelter in this once abandoned place. Lock the door, he said urgently as Sam scrambled to close the door behind them. Do you feel that? Lisa asked, her voice filled with an emotion that lingered somewhere between relief and disbelief. Yeah, Jalen nodded, his heart swelling. We made it. But as moments passed, the air around them felt heavy with unspoken words. Jalen could sense the weight of everything they had just endured. Now what do we do? Lisa asked, glancing at Jalen, who felt a surge of responsibility wash over him. We regroup and come up with a plan. But first, we need to get to Rocco. This isn't just about us anymore, he replied, his voice steady. What do you mean? Sam questioned, shadows of concern flitting across her brow. I mean we can't turn our backs now. I can't leave behind someone who has been fighting for his life, even if the world says otherwise, Jalen said, a fierce fire igniting within him. This moment, when everything had seemed unsalvageable, had transformed him. He didn't just have a fight left in him, he had a purpose. You really think we can make it? Lisa asked quietly, her wide eyes filled with doubt, yet there was also a spark of courage igniting somewhere deep inside. If we stick together, there's nothing we can't face, Jalen affirmed, feeling the energy of the moment pulse between them. But we have to move fast. Let us do it. Sam said, her voice strong, echoing a sense of resolve. They clutched each other, drawing comfort from the shared determination thrumming between them. Together, they were stronger. Then first things first, Jalen took a deep breath, locking eyes with each of them. We find Rocco. No more running away. We take that fight head on. With their spirits lifted, they gathered their resolve, knowing that the road ahead would be tough, but it was theirs to navigate. United as a family, they began to plot their course not just to save one life, but to kindle the hope that lives can indeed be transformed. And under the faint glow of flickering fluorescent lights, they found a new strength, the strength of compassion, understanding, and most importantly, trust. Now was the time for action. Now was their moment to change the lives of not only Rocco but perhaps even the world around them. But action starts here. You need to subscribe now for more stories of courage and heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the momentum going. Share this moment of transformation with at least 5 friends who need to understand the power of compassion. Comment below with your feelings about how far Jalen and his friends have come. Don't wait not even one more second to share this journey. We're just getting started.